All right. Welcome, welcome. So my name is Brady Standfield. I'm the NBCUniversal representative for Columbia College Chicago. And today we've put on a Cinema Slapdown specifically for Universal's upcoming title, Freaky, which we just saw the trailer for. And we're debating the similar themes of a previous title, Happy Death Day. So today we'll be getting into that. But first, I want to give out the opportunity to share some merch. All right, I've got a good lineup of merch for all of you today. So what I want to do is give some horror trivia questions, and anytime you answer a correct question, you get a point. And anytime, as we go on throughout the night, I will be asking more trivia questions. So the more points you got, the more chance you have for the grand prize, which is a tie-dye freaky sweatshirt and hashtag Get Freaky socks. And then the runner-up will get a Happy Death Day t-shirt and a Fallon coffee mug, as well as a freaky face mask. And then the second runner-up will get the Fallon mug and the mask, and the third runner-up just the face mask. So the more points you get, the more opportunity you get to get that grand prize. So I'm going to start the first question. And if you want to blurt out first in the Zoom call, go for it. Or feel free to give out in the chat. I'll try and keep an eye to figure out who's first if someone does it in the chat. So the first question is, what is the name of the killer clown in Stephen King's It?
Pennywise.
Was that Pennywise? I think that was Renee first. So I'm gonna get that down. So we got Renee. We got 1 point for her. All right, next question is, what is the name of the main villain in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Leatherface.
All right, Daniel. Nice. All right, third question. What is the name of the hotel where The Shining takes place?
The Outlook Hotel.
And that was Daniel again. Nice. Daniel's at 2. And
that was wrong. That was not the name of the hotel.
Was that not?
No.
What was it? Sorry. I think I might have had the wrong answer.
No, Bates is not it either.
No, he said
Overlook. It's the Overlook.
Oh, yeah, Joshua just got it right.
Oh, I guess I heard that wrong. I thought he said Overlook. My bad. Here, let's move on to the next question then. So we've got
No. Shut up.
Here we go. Fourth question. What was the name of the infamous fishing boat used in the climactic shark hunt at the end of Jaws? Nothing. Nobody knows?
Only that it needed to be bigger.
Just to repeat the question, we have, what was the name of the infamous fishing boat used in the shark hunt at the end of Jaws? Titanic. Incorrect. Okay, we'll skip that. Next question is, who is the main protagonist in the Scream series? First and last name. Ghostface, incorrect. Starts with the letter S.
Sydney something. Sydney.
You're very close.
Yeah.
Starts with P. Sydney starts with P. You're almost there. Now I'll give that to you, Daniel. Sydney Prescott. Sydney Prescott.
Thank you.
All right, that's the questions for now. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to David. He'll be our ref tonight. Thank you
Awesome.
all.
Thank you so much, Brady. And thank you all for coming out tonight. All right. So welcome to Cinema Slapdown. Let me do I'm David Tarleton. I am a professor in cinema and television arts. I'm also director of graduate programs, and I will be your referee tonight, if you couldn't tell by the shirt. Let me do a few thank yous first. I want to start out by thanking Sandy Cooperson. Without you, we just could never do any of these. Your tireless work to make these happen is always appreciated. Thank you to Thelma Vickroy, the chair of the Cinema and Television Arts Department. Thank you to the admissions open house team preview event, Ania Greener and Andrew Watley. Thank you to NBCUniversal, Amy Murby, and the student rep, Brady Standfield. Thank you to our debaters and student organization, Emma Pillsbury from the Art House Society, and Josh Boshell from the Columbia Horror Picture Show. Thank you to Glenn Case for the promo design. Thank you to Elise Nina and Kevin Kantorski for the tech. Let me introduce what we're doing here. So we are debating Freaky, but we're also debating it in the context of the director's last movies. And let me introduce our debaters. So let me start by introducing Emma Pillsbury on the pro side, arguing changing the cycle. Emma Pillsbury will be graduating from Columbia College Chicago this December, majoring in cinema, art, and science with a concentration in directing and experimental filmmaking. She's also the president of the Art House Society, where every week the club screens and discusses international experimental avant-garde or experimental films. After college, she plans to continue her passion for making and sharing films in New York City. Let's give a big round of applause for Emma. And on the con side, Joshua Boshell, arguing frightening. Josh is a senior BFA cinema directing student and current president of the Columbia Horror Picture Show, Columbia's horror movie club. He immediately fell in love with the horror genre after watching The Evil Dead, 1981, back in 2014, and hasn't stopped watching scary movies since. He has directed 2 horror short films and is currently in the process of developing his sci-fi horror thesis film, Something Somewhere. Post-graduation, he plans to continue creating content and preparations for his feature film debut. When he's not obsessing over movies, he's reading, playing D&D or video games with friends, or preparing his Necron army for another battle in Warhammer 40K. Let's give it up for Joshua. All right, we will begin by determining who goes first through the ancient ritual of rock, paper, scissors. Okay. Joshua and Emma?
Yeah.
Get out your hands. There we go. And it'll be rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And we will do it on shoot. Ready?
Gotcha.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh.
I did paper, but I was capturing the rock.
Okay. All right. We will accept that.
Okay.
Emma, you have 3 minutes to make your opening argument, and begin now.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, David. I would like to begin the conversation by pointing out there will be spoilers. So with that said, let's begin by pointing towards the similar themes that the 2 movies share. Both movies include a woman who is not in control of their situations. However, metaphorically, the surrealism of reliving your life is much more impactful to me in Happy Death Day. Talking about Happy Death Day, we see a woman who has let her priorities slip through her life, and every consequence to her actions seems small in comparison to the person that she has become. We are given a visual representation of this metaphor for life. We see her seeing her life and living through the consequences in real time over and over again that continues to kill her over and over again. So while this is a hyperbole, I think that there's a divisive, simple truth to it that comes across. Unless you can change whatever toxic cycle is that you're going through, you and your friends will all die. No, but I'm going to connect to the real world now in a less exaggerated way. There are things in our lives that we have to investigate and challenge, otherwise everyone will follow the same paths and live comfortably without question. If we never challenge these things, like say the continuing negativity coming from those around you, behind closed doors, right under our noses, our best friend could be a serial killer like in Happy Death Day. or they could just be a source of negativity in our lives, just fueling our own flaws and complacency. Cycles can be seen everywhere in our lives, both in a micro and macro level. Family, generational cycles, systems in place in the government, power structures, or dynamics are all a bit broad to say the least, but I think we're seeing these behavioral patterns passed down, which are not positive, and we see it through misogyny, racism, and closed-mindedness. So this brings me to the point of the film. There is a potential to break this inside of everyone, just as I think this film shows. This includes your average person, politicians, neighbors, teachers, bank robbers, who you may not like for whatever reason, but people who can take their burdens in life or the paths which are given to them and question and make something new with their lives is how you break the cycle. So if there's no question of our own realities or why we're living and acting the way we are, then nothing would ever change. We've seen it happen continuously throughout the history, and we're seeing it happen now in real time. Something which sticks out to me is the fact that the main character may not have moved on with her life or become the better version of herself if she had not gone through all these terrible experiences she had. So when someone perceives or when someone experiences these things in their life which is directly hurting them, it will change their perspective. She took that moment to change her life because clearly the path she was going on was going to make her feel as if she's dying over and over again. We don't have to be bigger than whatever we're told, or we have to be bigger than whatever we're told we have to be or how we have to act. We don't have to have an experience like this where we continually die over and over again to see that there's something wrong with our lives. If we see something like this happening elsewhere to other people, both metaphorically and literally speaking, it is within our power and our duty to challenge it. Society will tell you that we have to be a certain way or not think certain things because it challenges others. That's how you grow in life.
All right. Yeah. Joshua, your opening 3 minutes.
Gotcha. Hey guys. So very good points you brought there, Emma. I disagree with you about some of the change things. I don't think you have to change in order for things to happen. I'm gonna go in a second. So like we live in like a very scary world right now, you know, where it's like pandemic, there's heated politics internationally and domestically. But like a lot of people choose not to see these issues. They hide behind, you know, our devices and this, and we live in a world that's we're not even required to leave the house in order to survive. We can stay the same at home. We can stay sedentary. You know, and the success of the during this pandemic has shown that, you know. So we have like you can take online classes, you can order online, you can do a job online, you can run a business completely online, and obviously you can do even terrible things online to people that's like illegal and whatnot. And I mean, obviously you can draw that connection with, you know, the murderers in the film who hide behind masks and can murder people. But the point is, like, you can go through life having the same attitude, career, not caring about anyone, even not change, and still be successful. And bringing the question of like directly to you, Emma, is like with there's a common theme between these two films is you must take control of your life in order to live. And by take control, I also mean inherently change. So like in Happy Death Day, the main character Tree must figure out the best way to get out of this time loop thing. In Freaky, Millie, the main character, has to find the way back to her body, right? So both of them go through this like psychological, emotional journey when they could have just easily followed a straight line, found the killer, stopped them, and live on to the next day without changing their lives at all. They can say the same person. So the idea of changing yourself in this case is like unrealistic and overrated. It's no longer necessary with this and the points I mentioned at the beginning. No longer necessary for you, the individual, to take control of your life in order to live. You don't need to change your life in order to achieve your goals. And you know, going back to reality, the plus side of this is that life is easier than ever before, and you can put your best toe forward, not even best foot, and you can get the whole world back. And you know, I'd say that's a pretty good deal. And I'm gonna give the rest of my time.
Awesome, thank you so much. So you know, I'm going to go on and ask some questions and sort of continue this. But for those of you in the audience, I want to point out that this is very much about audience participation and hearing lots of points of view. So if and I will start calling on you guys. If anybody wants to participate, ask questions, make a point, write in the chat first. Start in the chat, and then I'll call on you from there, and we'll sort of continue our conversation that way. But I do want to sort of make the point that it's not just about two people. It's all of us sort of talking about this. So here's my first sort of question for you guys, and I'll throw it out to both of you. So Happy Death Day was Groundhog Day combined with horror movies. This one's original working title was Freaky Friday the 13th, which wears its two major influences on its sleeve. Do we need new stories, or is it good enough just to combine old ones?
Good question. You're addressing us, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good question. In Horror Club, we are always been debating the notion of remakes in this age that we're in, and you know, it's really tough. It's really tough to say. I would say we don't really need like the new stuff. I think it probably it works in this, but I do want to establish a difference between Happy Death Day and Groundhog Day, even though it's like directly referenced in the end of the film and everything. The worlds of Happy Death Day and Groundhog Day are separated by where the control of the morality is of how to get out of this time loop. You have Groundhog Day, where it's you know, Bill Murray is doing his thing, and it's like he has to get the right combination of actions to get to the next day, and it's like a miraculous thing that the world is saying that, yeah, you did it right, so you can go on. And Happy Death Day, it's all logical. She could it's in her power the entire time to get there. So she wouldn't have to go through all these different steps to get there. You know, she could just, as long as she finds the killer, stops him, and then leaves, she can keep going. Yes, I think that's where. Does that somehow get you an answer to that question? Okay.
You're muted, David. I didn't hear
Oh
you.
yeah, you are muted.
Oh, there we go. Emma, yeah, what do you think?
I think that definitely. I mean, there's no original thought technically, so I love the idea of taking something like I was talking about something the other day, like we're all cliches in our own way, and like I think taking old things and that are well done, like Friday the 13th or Groundhog Day, that people know and love, and like kind of reshaping them to fit a modern story is good and can be very innovative in its own way. I think that I think it's specifically this director, he is like known for kind of like taking, like he took Groundhog Day and he took Friday the 13th and are making these new movies. So I think in a sense, like it's almost become his like thing. And I'm interested to see where he goes with that. But in general, because it is kind of like, yes, sometimes it's not good to take ideas and make boring remakes, but I think that definitely you can take old ideas and reshape them into new things that are interesting and worthwhile.
All right, here's another question for you guys. You know the character of Josh, right? The gay friend of the protagonist in the film. Is Josh a pointed satiric take on gay men or an offensive stereotype? And I will ask, is his characterization okay because the writers and director were gay?
One thing that I think is really important is representation, and I think that having a horror movie like this that's being promoted a lot and like really on the forefront of like cool horror movies that are coming out now for younger kids, I think it's awesome that they have you know, a young gay kid in the movie. I don't entirely know how much it leans into it. I think that it is good that it's the writer and director were gay, so I think that they have that ability to showcase it properly, and I think that that's good, you know, from what I've seen.
Okay. I mean, as a person, I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, so putting that aside, I don't know. This film is full of a lot of cliches. So I feel like, you know, you have the moment where he's like looking at stuff online, and you know, he just like it's revealed that he's gay, and then it fits in with the rest of the.
Sorry, are we talking about the young gay character, the serial killer? It's the young.
We're talking about her friend.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, the friend where it's like revealed in the film, and then she like goes up to him. Yeah, yeah, it's just like it fits along with the rest of the cliches, but at the same time, it feels like it's like I don't know. From what I've experienced, that seems like a moment that's like usually pretty like cherished in someone's life, and it felt like it was like when it was first addressed in the film, it felt very just used as a joke. Which in the context of the rest of the film, there was a lot of jokes like that, because it was like partially a horror film, partially just satirizing like rom-coms for a little bit, and just but if you take the piece by itself, I would say it's a little on the nose and detriment. This is just me saying it though. It's like more of a detrimental view of coming out, I guess. I mean, he didn't actually have the act of coming out. It didn't show that. It just was like, we found out that this is his orientation. So yeah, that's me.
You know, so this is a horror comedy. Does the film work both as a comedy and as an authentically scary film after, say, the opening sequence? Right, because I think we can all agree that the opening sequence is pretty scary. But once we get past that, is the film actually scary?
You know, it's interesting you bring that up, because like, spoilers for the sequel, it's not a horror movie anymore. Like, I haven't seen it, but I was like looking at bits of it, so it's like, yeah, it's definitely like has the scary vibes at the beginning, but like as it goes on, it's more about like, what is she doing about it? And it's because it's happened so many times, it's not scary anymore. It's just it fits in the comedy at that point, because it's like, what's she gonna do this time and this time and this time?
It's got gory parts. I mean, it certainly has gory parts.
But like, can you like, does gory mean scary? That is a question I'm gonna leave up to the audience.
What do you think, Emma?
I think that this specific movie, Happy Death Day, does lean into comedy more. I think that because like it's rooted in the characters that are like cliches and more like traditionally funny, and also the actors are playing it more funny. I think that it's almost impossible not to fall back onto that, like even without trying to. Like if you have like those serious like action moments or like gore or something, you're traditionally like you're almost always met with like a comeback of comedy. And I think that in this movie that works more, only because I think the main character, she's kind of like, I mean, you see her here, it's like kind of she's like, oh, God, like let's get this done, and like that's kind of her attitude the whole time. And like she's like traditional like like boss girl, like it kind of turns into that a little bit for me. But you know, I think that this movie works better as a comedy. I know that's not entirely what your question was, but I think that I think movies can do it well, and we've seen that with like Jordan Peele. Like there's I think a upswing of comedic horror movies. I think this movie does the comedy better though, and that's my take on that.
So you know, here's another question for you guys. Talk to me a little bit about the same-sex kiss between Millie in the body of Vince Vaughn and her crush Booker. Talk to me about that scene. Does it work? Is it effective? Right? How is that playing for you guys?
That's in the trailer, right?
No, it's in the film.
For Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn's in Freaky. Right?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Vince Vaughn, when it's Millie in his body.
Oh, I know. I get what you're saying.
Right.
It goes in.
I mean, it's an interesting scene, right? And I think
Yes.
especially in the context of knowing that the filmmakers are gay, right? Because I think that absolutely sort of affects the reading of the scene of seeing two male actors kissing, but one of them is playing a woman in that scene. Like, just talk to me about that scene a little bit and how it plays for you.
Well, for me, it's I don't know. I always tie it back to, you know, other roles of somebody playing somebody else in their body. You know, it feels kind of very similar to that for me. You know, like recently, like Jack Black being a teenage girl as well in the Jumanji films. Yeah, I guess you could talk about how it's controversial because it's both like heterosexual and homosexual at the same time in terms of like psychologically what's going on. But it's like that brings the question is like is she technically male because she's in a male body? So it you know it I think that also puts it goes into like the question of like what people ask themselves, what I assume people ask themselves when they're considering what their orientation is, you know. So they're like I feel female, but I'm like I look male. Interesting thought. I'm not sure if I have an exact argument for that, but I would say that I would say that's the same. I would say that's like the same situation as real life there with that. Like a very similar situation.
I mean, what interests me about this that's different than like things than She's the Man, Freaky Friday, which we know this is also based on, which is like almost an homage in a weird way, funnily enough. But it's like the age thing that's different to me instead of just it's now an age thing and a gender thing. Because what's always interested me about that is like in She's the Man, Channing Tatum is like at the when she kisses him as herself, like in a gown or whatever. He's like don't ever do that again. I was really confused. I was like attracted to a guy, which is really interesting to me. Like talking about like gender and sexuality fluidity, just because like I think people do find themselves tied into like constructs a lot, and it's also not to say like to discredit anyone's sexuality, but I think that people don't explore it sometimes. And like in Channing Tatum, he was like feeling confused and like he didn't want to give into that because it's like, you know, he didn't think he was gay, and he technically wasn't. He was attracted, maybe more like pansexual, attracted to Amanda Bynes' personality. And I think that relates in this situation too. I just think it's kind of crazy and like crazy, like almost like you have to laugh at it that he's kissing a serial killer that's like killed people. And it's crazy. I mean, I feel like the only thing you can't really do is laugh at it, and you're like, okay, this is never gonna happen ever in real life, so I'll just pretend like it's a movie, like, you know.
Right, and yet the moment is played authentically, right? The moment is it's not played like as a gag. It's played authentically at that moment, which among other things feels very contemporary, right? Like this film is clearly and unambiguously referencing films from the 80s and the 90s. You know, like it's there's so many references to other things, but that moment in particular, like I don't think it would have played that way in the 80s or the 90s. You know what I mean? Like it feels it felt like a very mature and the fact that they weren't like, oh, you know, like it wasn't like, ooh, yuck. It was actually this sort of authentic human relationship moment, to me, was what felt a little bit revolutionary at that moment, right? Like it felt like, like you can play this and just and make the emotion of it real, and the fact that it's two men kissing each other isn't actually what the scene's about in a way.
Yeah.
I feel like
can I respond? Or sorry. I was gonna say it's interesting you brought the history of that, because like you know, going back through like horror cinema history, like it's it's a pretty heterosexual like genre, and like it's in and when it does come up with anything else other than just that, it's often treated as comedy. So I guess this I have the same question for this film as the other film we were talking about with LGBTQ. Is that like, are they still are they treating it like well? Because like it's still being treated as comedy, even though I don't have a specific example from the history of it, but it's usually like it's like in like a party and there's like two guys kiss and then it's like, ew, he did that. And like that was the vibe before like these films. And it's just I'm interested in seeing that it's still comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But is this comedy better?
But the
than
joke
the
isn't coming out of homophobia,
right?
You know, I mean, you know, like the traditional joke is, ooh, you know, men kissing, you know, like that is the inherently funny thing, as opposed to it being sort of a more nuanced. You know, this feels much more nuanced than what you see in a lot of sort of older films in a similar situation.
Like, is it better though? Is it really better? Go for it.
Yeah, Brady.
I was just going to say, an earlier question you gave, David, of like, are we losing the chance of getting new stories? Like, because horror is such an old, genre, and it's kind of difficult to do new things. I think that's exactly what the new thing is, right? It's, using old tropes but putting it in a fresh new setting, right? And if that means you have to combine two genres or two previous titles in order to accomplish that, then I think that's okay. And I feel like it also brings in audiences, and I think with Freaky, it brings in an audience that is familiar with the horror genre, but then bringing these new ideas forward, like a scene like that, that's so new. And the fact that it's not the extremely big thing that's being talked about, I think that's just case in point. That's the new part, in my opinion.
All right. And by the way, I would love to just encourage everyone to think of yourselves as co-debaters. So if you're in the audience and you want to get your 2 cents in, please just write something in the chat and I'll call on you. Actually, Brady, do you want to ask some trivia questions? This might be a good time to.
Yeah, we'll break it up. Sure. So I left on, let's see here. Okay. Before he was caught and burned to death by angry townspeople, Freddy Krueger was a serial killer known as the blank. Just to be clear with that. Nightmare is incorrect. I like that. I like the try.
He's a custodian.
The custodian
at the school. Was he?
That'd be interesting. It's two words.
Child killer.
What was that?
Child killer.
No. The 2 words start with the letter S.
Something slasher, right?
Brainless slasher.
Yep, that was it. Who was that?
Kira.
Kira, got it. Nice. That's a point for Kira. Okay, next one is, what is the name of the mysterious hypnotic location that Chris finds himself in during Get Out?
Void.
It's incorrect, but similar.
The sunken place?
Correct.
Yeah.
Rebecca. That was Rebecca, right? Nice. Okay. Got you down. The Purge is about a 24-hour period where all crime is legal in America. How often does this occur?
Once a year.
Once a year.
Correctamundo. That was Daniel first. So Daniel, you have 4 points. Currently the winner for the prize. Let's go on one more. The bad guy in Don't Breathe might be old and blind, but he's hiding a big secret in the basement. What is it?
A captured woman who.
Correct. Yeah, kidnapped woman. Yeah, nice. Very good. All right, here, I'll give one more. Michael Myers' mask is actually a mask for what Star Trek character?
Kirk.
Kirk, yes. That was, oh, I missed it. Sorry, who was that?
Me, Renee.
Awesome. Well done. Okay, all right.
All right, thanks, Brady. We'll have some more
Thank
of
you.
those later on. Okay, so I want to just talk about this in the context of its biggest and well, if we had to pick the one sort of largest influence, which is Freaky Friday, and if we look at Freaky Friday, or frankly most of the multitude of body swapping films, right? That's a whole genre, right? 13 going on 30. Like there's frankly, you can even talk about big, like it's a thing, right? Like it's by this point, it's not an original idea. But, if you look at, like, say, Freaky Friday, and you sort of look at the core story, right? It's about a mother and a daughter who are estranged from each other. And as a result of spending time literally walking around in each other's shoes, they're able to gain empathy for each other, right? But in Freaky, these characters have nothing in common, right? Do you think the filmmakers sort of missed an opportunity for the characters to sort of gain insight into each other, a sort of perverse twist, and seeing how the other half lives in the context of the film?
Is this an everyone question or just a Josh and I question?
Well, I'll start with Josh and you, but I would love to start hearing from other folks.
For me, I think that that's an interesting idea. I think that it would change the tone a lot, because it is looking into like a serial killer's like mind, and I think myself included and a lot of other people are very interested in how like serial killers like minds work, and like there's a lot of because like a lot of it is that you actually cannot understand how they feel because like they just feel differently. It's like one case, but then another time it's maybe like trauma that's happened to them or that shaped them or whatever. So I think it's an interesting choice. I don't think that it would benefit this movie though. I think it would just be a completely different movie if they were to do that, unless they did it in a comedic way. But then you're getting to a territory of like I mean, serial killers are like very bad, but are you poking fun at them, and is that good or is that bad? Or keeping the tone of the film and drawing that idea in, I think you'd have to do that very well for that to work. It's not as simple as like a mother-daughter relationship, in my opinion.
What do you think, Joshua?
It's complicated, but sorry, can you reword the question again?
Well, I was just saying, like if you look at almost all of the examples of body swapping movies, the sort of premise of the body swap is that, it's you're walking a mile in another person's footsteps, right? That the process of seeing the world through someone else's eyes changes your perception on the world, that you sort of learn how the other half lives, so to speak, right? Even, look, we can go back to Mark Twain with like Prince and the Pauper, and you know what I'm saying? Like there's a long history of, heck, Shakespeare did it, right? Like, like people swapping lives has a long history, and traditionally the central theme of those kind of movies is allowing people to see how the other half lives, whatever that other half is, right? That's not the thing that was explored here. Is that a missed opportunity?
Yeah. I would think so, because it's already so present in that subgenre. When you make a genre film, I know there's like rules that you should, like, people always say you should stick by and ones you can break, but like that seems like a very strong one that you should keep, just because of just having that really interesting dynamic. And like you could even, I don't know how it would fit in the film, but I do feel like there's a missing piece there. You could like
I would suspect if you did it successfully here, the killer would be fleshed out. Like one of the challenges is Vince Vaughn's character is relatively two-dimensional.
He's very two-dimensional. Yeah, it's just like, oh, hey, I'm a serial killer and I'm in a girl's body.
For no good reason. I mean, right? I'm just, there's no real motivation.
That's not a new. That's not a new thing though in like the horror genre. It's. I mean, from the beginning, it's mostly just been, here's the killer, and then here's all the people trying to survive it. So like, yeah, I think it would have been more interesting to see a serial killer who we saw the three-dimensional serial killer.
The conflict of the film is that this girl is trying to get her body back before, she's going to be the one that gets arrested for this because somebody's using her body to kill people. So that's like the main conflict of the film, and I think it's hard to fit in like a huge theme of exploring like a mentally disturbed person's mind while like keeping the same attitude towards everything, and like the drama between the characters and everything. Like you're introducing things like the girl who's stuck in the serial killer's body. Like she's going to be the one who has to live his life, but she's not. She's living this life where she has to go find herself the whole time. And I mean, along the way, she experiences some things here and there, like he's a creepy old dude. People don't really like that, but
right.
It doesn't need it. It's almost worse if they did that, because then it's saying like, oh, this white guy, like this old white guy, like he's had such a hard life that allows him to be a serial killer. Like, no, like you don't want to, it's almost like, it's even proving the point more like that this guy, what he's doing is wrong and that you shouldn't feel bad for him. And that, I think that movie is what it's like kind of trying to do, but in a lighthearted way.
I get what you're saying, because like, yeah, the film is aimed through like the lens of her. But like if you like compare it to examples of, I guess, anti-heroes or villain origin stories, for example, the most recent like Joker film, you have a villain. I mean, you could argue that it's also a horror film thriller too, but that's not the case. But like basically, but what I'm trying to say is like, you have this guy that has this origin story. He ends up being this really screwed up person and being a killer, but and he has a whole bunch of followers that like what he's doing. So like, and you sympathize with him because of just like his journey and how much pain he went through. Like why can't we see that with like the Vince Vaughn character? Like I know like at the end, in its end result, you don't want to necessarily sympathize with that, but why not see the process?
I see a couple people expressing some thoughts. Kira, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes, honestly, I kind of more agree with Joshua when it comes to the missing part. It has backtraced within generations and centuries of, seeing people's sides when it comes to the body swapping. But then again, I'm kind of like stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's like a new wave of it, something different, something no one really has seen before in theaters, or in our case now at home on demand, because a lot of people can't go to theaters. But for the most part, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree almost 100% with him.
And Natasha.
I think I get what Josh is saying, but I think for me, I think it would be really hard because with the Joker, it was a full-on movie about him, and trying to stick that into the movie of this one would be difficult. And they already had like really interesting reviews itself, trying to people seeing it as they're siding with a serial killer, seeing a human side to them. So adding it to this movie would kind of create even more controversy, I think. And I see these movies as kind of like a simple fun movie to watch, and I don't think people are really coming to see such a serious side to this film.
Thank you. That's great. Renee.
Well, one thing that jumped out at me is that while the comparisons to Freaky Friday is that every time I was more connected to the fact that it was a lot closer to that comedy from the 2002 Hot Chick, which was more about like he was just a crook, and it was just suddenly she needed to find. It was that very similar story of we have nothing in common. I don't even want you in my body or anywhere near my friends or family or anything like that. Just give me back my life. And that I feel like is what I liked about this, was that it was spinning that into the horror aspect, which then kind of drove that point even stronger of like he's not just a crook now, he's a serial killer, and he's killing in my DNA, and that is going to be so much more impactful, which I think then adding in that level of a lesson learned or we see each other in a new light kind of way makes it even tackier, I think. And I think that would leave people feeling a little bit more icky than just a fun little like, oh my gosh, imagine if this happened to you, even though it's pure fantasy and all of that we're safe in knowing that it will never happen.
Well, you never know. You got to watch those Aztec knives. Jonathan.
I agree that it doesn't really have a place in this film in a way. Like if you go back to one of the questions you asked about like recreating new story or like recreating stories and like putting like the Freaky Friday in this genre, one of the things it does differently is that it like doesn't really explore that like different sides of their life as much, where you don't get like empathy for the villain, because like Renee said, like there's not really like a place for it in this story. Like the conflict of the story is like someone's like killing with my DNA, and not like glorification of a villain, of a serial killer, and like adding it in would have just seemed kind of weird. That's my opinion.
All right. So did Jack Black and Jumanji or Vince Vaughn here do the young woman in a man's body thing better?
Maybe Vince Vaughn did it better, and only because it wasn't a pure caricature of a young girl. I think that, I mean, I love Jack's. It was so funny. I'm not mad about it, but I guess maybe there were some people who were offended, and I think that I can understand why. But Vince Vaughn is more. Also, like knowing Vince Vaughn and knowing Jack Black, I think they each did their due diligence and did the characters in their own way. I don't think Vince Vaughn could have done what Jack Black did, and vice versa.
I see that. It's a hard question to take sides on that. I am very biased towards Jack Black. I'm a subscriber on his YouTube channel. He's been going on. I feel what you're saying about how caricature he is, but it's the same, isn't it? Is it not the same thing with Vince Vaughn's? Like I remember that cheerleading dance. That's like, I know it's like a defining moment of like, how do I know it's you? And then it's like, I'm gonna do a cheerleading dance. But like to me, that has the same energy as Jack Black.
Does anyone really have the energy of Jack Black though? I mean, he really.
Okay, yeah, not the energy level. I'm talking about like the same kind of dealing with the character in terms of caricature.
Emma, do you have a rebuttal?
I mean, I kind of like the fact that Vince Vaughn is like maybe like a burlier like big man and like is able to like show that feminine side in a weird way. I think that it's interesting from an acting perspective that it's a little bit more complex, even though there are cliches, of course. I think that's more the script, though, and less Vince Vaughn. But I would say that to your question, I would say Vince Vaughn has a better portrayal, but the one I like more, Jack.
All right. Well, we're wrapping things up. Let me let each of our debaters make a short concluding remarks, and then I'm going to hand it over to Brady to finish with the trivia and the handing out of the merch. Joshua, you want to go first, since Emma went first at the beginning?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. So first off, thanks to the recent success of Blumhouse and A24 and Monkey Paw and Universal, we're seeing like a resurgence in horror movies, and I just want to like really, I want to give them like a pat on the back if they were a physical people, because we haven't seen that since like the 80s. There was a big spot in the early 2000s where there was not very many experimental attempts to make horror films. Shameless plug. So I'm president of the Columbia Horror Picture Show, as was mentioned before. We meet every Monday at 7 p.m. on Discord. More information about how to get to that Discord can be found on our Instagram at Colum Horror, and that's COLUM Horror, or on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/groups/Colum Horror. Just all you have to do is request to join, put in your ID number, and we'll get you all ready for the spooks. Thank you everybody. Thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it and listening to what I have to say.
Thank you, Joshua. Emma.
Yeah, same format for me. Thank you guys for coming. I'm also part of the Art House Society, where we sometimes watch horror movies, but it's ranging from like international, experimental, documentary stuff. And we also are starting discussions like with Marinaz Safid. I can never say her last name right, but she's an amazing professor here at Columbia, and she's going to be doing like discussions on like how to discuss film. So if you're interested in that, or like more analytically and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, or if you're interested in coming and watching a film or just talking or whatever, we meet every Friday at 7, which I'm missing right now, but I'll go after. And yeah, thanks guys for coming, and Sandy and everyone, you all rock.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for both of our debaters. Amazing job. All right, Brady.
All right, thank you, Emma. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, David. And thank you, Sandy, for help coordinating this with me. And thank you, Elise, for taking care of tech. I put in Columbia Horror and Emma and Josh's Instagram. Emma, feel free to plug your Instagram as well if I missed one. Yeah, and then to plug my organization, I'm the president of a newer Columbia organization called Table Right, where we basically every week come in and give feedback to your scripts, treatments, ideas, or you can just come in and contribute to the conversation. And we like to help everybody with their scripts, whether it's the first draft or the 80th. So it's Saturdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Send me a direct message with your email if you are interested. Now, without further ado, I would like to continue with the final trivia questions to give out the merch. Right now, Daniel has 5, Renee has 2, Kira and Rebecca have 1. So let's get back into it. So let's see. Which film is typically credited as creating the genre of found footage horror films?
Blair
Witch
Witch?
Project.
That's a good answer. But there's a different one that most people, or that is normally credited with the found footage.
Amityville Horror?
No. Starts with a C. You could argue this is an opinion, but I'm looking for a specific movie.
Creep?
What was that?
I said Creep.
Cloverfield?
Oh, Creep. Oh, yeah.
Creep. I actually haven't heard of that movie, but no.
Cloverfield?
It's good.
Is that? Yeah, it is. It is. What was that? Cloverfield? No. I think that was said before.
Can I? No one gets it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, Emma, Josh, David, go for it.
Is it Cannibal Holocaust?
Cannibal Holocaust. Okay.
Yeah. Emma got it first. I'll give it to
I
Emma.
was gonna guess that. Yeah.
You know, I don't need a point.
Go for it. And then another one. What is the name of the doll in The Conjuring?
Annabelle.
Annabelle.
There's Daniel again. All right, I've got two more. Okay, there we go. What is the movie poster tagline for the 1985 movie House? Josh, you sound like you know it.
I don't, but it's really funny because my the past president was obsessed with that movie. Is absolutely obsessed with the movie. So
Oh, there's Kira. Yep.
Yeah.
Well
it's
done.
painful.
All right. Let's see. Trying to find a good one for the last one. Okay. Which Alfred Hitchcock horror film featured the iconic shower scene?
Psycho.
I think, was that David first? I could tell everyone did.
It was.
Okay, yeah. He's like, yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I'll take one.
Awesome. And then, okay, so right now our winner is Daniel with 6 points. And then Renee and Kira are tied for the second runner-up. And then Rebecca and Emma are tied for the first runner-up. And then Rebecca and Emma are tied for the second runner-up. The next four people in the chat who send the title of send your first name in the chat. I will send complimentary freaky masks to if you are interested. I think that was it for the last thing. Oh, and of course, go check out and get tickets for Freaky at freaky.movie. And they have screenings at theaters near, if you're in the Chicago area, at Showplace Icon, AMC River East 21, or AMC Dine-In Block 37. And yeah, I believe that's it. If I'm missing anything, someone tell me. But otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Brady. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Really quick, Brady, do you have all the addresses for the people that won?
Yes, good point. So the winners that I announced, and I can say that again. So Daniel, Renee, Kira, Rebecca, Emma, and David, send me your first and last name and then your address. You can either direct message that to me in the chat or send it to my email right here in the chat. I'll let stick around it so that you can send it to me so that I'll let Elise know not to, or whoever's hosting, not to exit out. But
I'm sending you my name right now via email.
Okay, great. Sounds good. So I got Kira's, and then Rebecca or Emma, David, and Joshua. I already have your emails. But Renee or Rebecca, are you sending me in the chat, or feel free you can email me.
I'm gonna send it to you in email.
Email possible. Yeah, that's what I'm pulling up.
Cool. So I've got Kira's. Then I'll just be on the lookout for those emails. Cool. Thank you all so much, and hope you have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.